What's up guys, macadii here. Now today I'm bringing you guys the second battle of week 9 of the IEP, where I was against Ollie, aka Flashfire. Now unfortunately he's in Scotland I think at the minute, so he wasn't able to join me for this one, but I'll still run through sort of some of my thoughts of it, at least, of what actually went on during the battle and why I decided to do certain moves. So one thing I did notice with his new draft, because he had a bit of a change up about week 7, something like that, was that he normally likes to bring the Chesnuaght and either the Mantine or the Alomomola as his 2 defensive cores, and then he normally has some offensive pivots from there. So I figured, I recently picked up Dugtrio because I found that Quagsire wasn't really doing much. I never really used it. I think I used it a few times in the first few weeks and that was about it. So I figured Dugtrio would be really good for this because I knew that with a choice band I think I had a really good chance to I guaranteed O-code the Mega Gardevoir after Rocks, so I could come in and I could get a cheeky kill from there. If his Typhlosion was Specs rather than Scarf, I could have come in and taken that out. I also had Aerial Ace on this as well, which meant that I could be doing about 50% to a Chesnuaght, which is absolutely crazy. This is choice banded. That just shows how defensive Chesnuaght is and also how weak Dugtrio is as well. And I knew I could do about 60% to the Meloetta, so I was definitely glad I brought this. Alongside this as well, is I identified that I could set up on both of his walls with my Latios, but rather than properly setting up, I decided substitute was probably the best way, because he's got the Scarf Staraptor all banded. It's always tricky to tell, and also with the Gardevoir around, it would be very difficult for me to try and sweep, because a Shadow Ball still only does about 70% if I remember rightly. So I figured sub was the best way to go. I know he could still Hyper Voice me if I was behind a sub, but I could get a sub up every time his walls came in, and I could come in for pretty much free unless he managed to get lucky with the School Burn, and I could just set up and get a sub up, and I would be in such a strong position because it was so hard for him to then revenge kill me. Alongside this as well, we also had Heatran, which as far as I can remember was sort of bulky Heatran. I wanted to have this bulky because yeah, it was a bulky Assault Vested Heatran, because I knew then I could take hits from the Gardevoir, but I also had enough speed EVs where if I could get a Flame Charge up, I would outspeed pretty much everything outside of the Typhlosion, and I could actually, because I assumed his Staraptor would probably be the banded one, and I could then just run through his draft from there, once I got rid of the Mantine as well. So that was kind of a mini win condition going on there. We also had Physically Offensive Donphan, which was there to set up rocks, just put a bit of physical, sort of offensive pressure on there as well, and also give me rapid spin support because I really didn't want any rocks up on my side. Alongside this as well, I also had my Umbreon, which I made specially defensive if I remember rightly, so I could take Typhlosion's hits, and also kind of Mega Gardevoir's hits if I, as far as I'm aware, but just to give it a bit of support. And then finally we got Physically Defensive Dusclops as well, because that thing's a monster. If he wasn't bringing Choice Band of Staraptor, I could handle that. I could come in on the Chesnuaght and his other walls and stuff like that, and just generally just be a bit of an annoyance. He didn't have a heal battle outside the Mega Gardevoir, and he loves playing offensive Mega Gardevoir, so I didn't really expect the heal battle at any point. So that was my thoughts for this at least. So seeing his team, I was predicting possibly the Typhlosion lead for a little bit of sort of punch to start with, or even maybe the Gardevoir to get the Mega up. So I actually led off with the Heatran here, as unfortunately he led off with the Staraptor here. Now I thought he would probably just go for the safe thing and just go for the close combat here, so I actually go out into my Dusclops here, as a close combat just does nothing, because obviously with the ghost type, so he ends up going out into Typhlosion here, predicting me to go for the Will-O-Wisp here, but I actually double out and go out into Heatran. Now this is the manliest move I've ever seen. I double out into Latios as he stays in and goes for the Eruption. I could have Earth Powered and just almost one-shotted this thing, and he decides to risk it with that. That was absolutely crazy. So he goes for the Eruption here. Doesn't do too much, but that reveals to me from the damage that he is Scarf. So I go out now into my own Heatran, as I do then get the Flashfire boost from here. So I knew I was really good to go. He does go out to Erwin here as I go for the Fire Blast, doing a fairly decent chunk considering that's Flashfire boosted and everything like that. But this does mean that I can now go out into Umbreon, because Umbreon can take all of these hits really well. And even if I get burnt, actually passing a burn on would be absolutely great. I do go for the Baton Pass here, because I decided not to run Heal Bell on this, and for just sort of a bit of switch initiative, because obviously The problem is with Umbreon is it walls things, but then it doesn't hit hard back too hard. And if he got a free switch out into Gardevoir, I'd be in so much trouble. So I figured Baton Pass was the way to go there. So Baton Pass, go out into the Latios here, as he goes out into Irwin, as I now Mega up, and I go for the substitute here. So he now knows he's in a bit of a pickle, really. So I go for T-Bolt here, take out the Irwin, and he now comes out into the Gardevoir, making me have to take a bit of a decision on this one. Do I save Latios because I could get another sub up at another point, but then risk having something taken out, or do I stay in? Because if I stay in and I get some damage off, I can go out into my Dugtrio from there and take it out. So I decided to actually stay in, get some damage off, because I'd taken out one of his core, which would be really, really crucial, and he then does take me out with the Hyper Voice from here. So I go into Dugtrio now, and I'm able to just EQ, take this thing out, which is a huge offensive threat out the way. Absolutely brilliant. He does go into Haley here, as I go into Umbreon, and he reveals he's the Relic Song, which I know he's been itching to try for a while, and this thing is a threat. So he predicts the switch out into Dusclops here, as I decide to stay in and go for the Foul Play here for some damage. Now, I decide to go out here into Flash Cutting. He has to close combat here. So he does go for the close combat now, and I decide to stay in because I needed to get a Willow on this, because this outsped my entire draft, even if it was Adamant. So actually, if it was Adamant, I think my Dugtrio would be able to hit this up, but something else would have had to have died. So he does go for another knockoff here, as I just go for the rest now, because I knew I could wear him down with Life Orb Recall, and that would be absolutely fine. And I end up going back out into Umbreon here, as he does go for another close combat, predicting the switch, which was just absolutely brilliant play. I really didn't see that coming, and that was, yeah, absolutely excellent. So he does go out into Staraptor now, as I'm out into Dusclops. So now he's in the position where he's got to try and make a choice here. He does decide to stay in a Abrevio, which does 80%, which is just insane. As I go for the I'm as fast asleep, but I do get Seismic Toss for a bit of damage, and that damage will be really, really useful later on. So from here, I go out into Donphan, because I knew he could either stay in, which I don't think he would do, or I could then go for Rocks. I decide to Ice Shell, because I thought he may end up expecting me to go for Rocks or something like that, and just go for the Brave Bird there. But I do end up going for the Ice Shell, but this means I can now set up my Stealth Rock. So he does go for Leech Seed, which reveals to me that he's definitely the more defensive set. He's not of Assault Vest or anything like that. So from here, he goes to the Drain Punch, really not doing much. And what I needed now was a free switch out into Heatran. So I had the Assault Vest on the Heatran. I knew I could take a Focus Blast from the Typhlosion. All I needed was to be able to get Flame Charge off, and then I'd be able to sweep from there, because I'd be able to outspeed the Staraptor after it revealed it was banded. As he does go for the Drain Punch again, taking me out, and he's at a really good amount of HP now. So I go into Heatran. He does go for the Spiky Shield here, as I reveal the Flame Charge. That was a bit unfortunate, but it's the only play I could make. He does go out to Gold here. Now, this is the bit that made me really sad, because I go for the Fire Blast here, and he reveals he's forgotten to put Flashfire on. So if I'd have decided to stay in and go for that Flame Charge, I would have definitely sealed the deal there, because I could take out the Chesnuaght and also the Staraptor from here really, really easily. And even if I didn't take out the Chesnuaght, I still had my Dugtrio in the wings, as I do miss my Fire Blast, which was unfortunate, because that was the only move I had. He ends up missing his Focus Blast after that as well, so it kind of evened out. That was absolutely fine. He does go back into Staraptor now, and I knew close combat would be able to sweep me from here, which was really, really unfortunate. And I end up fainting here as I go into Dugtrio. Now, as you guys just saw, he made the most, well, as he said, the most questionable play that he's ever done, which is decide to preserve the Staraptor. He's not sure exactly why. I think he thought it would be the safest play because he could come back in, but he forgot that rocks were up as well, because he thought this was Sash Dugtrio. But unfortunately, I was actually banded, and I clicked Aerial Ace here. So he goes down to Chesnuaght, as Aerial Ace is able to 2-hit KO Chesnuaght from here. So he does go for the Spiky Shield. There's nothing else I could do, but actually that misplay really, it cost him the game. He had it in the bag there. He only had to click CC, and unfortunately he miscalced. He got a few things wrong, and that was that was really, really unfortunate. But luckily it does mean that it secured me into the playoffs now. So I'm guaranteed to be in the playoffs, which is really, really cool. Really, really hyped about that. I can't wait for that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the battle. I know I should have technically had the win for that one. No, not the win, the loss. Don't technically had the loss for that one, but yeah, it was a really great battle apart from those last 2 turns. That was a real shame. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the battle, and I will see you guys at the next one. Macadii out.